Our topic today is on Plateau. How many of you have seen a Plateau before? Good. You have not seen? Okay. You have seen? Fine. So today we'll be looking at what Plateau, what they are all about. Now, the question is, what is a Plateau? Can anybody define a Plateau? Okay. Now let me help you with the definition. We have several definitions of plateau. A plateau can be defined as a flat elevated landform that rises sharply above the surrounding area on at least one side. A plateau is also an area of highland with a flat terrain with one or more steep sides. Now, we said plateaus, they usually occur on every continent and they take up a third of the Earth's land. Plateaus are one of the four major landforms along with mountains, plains and hills. An example of a plateau is the Deccan Plateau in India and the Tibet Plateau. We also have the Biu Plateau in Borno State in Nigeria. And of course, the Tibet Plateau is the highest plateau in the world. There are other definitions, like I said, as you can see on your screen. From there, we proceed to the characteristics of a plateau. Now, when we talk about the characteristics, we are actually referring to the attributes, the features, those features that you will see that will enable you to identify it. Now, we said one of them is that they are elevated flat lands, and also they have one or more steep sides and then steep slopes. Their height often varies from a few hundred meters to several thousand meters. A plateau can also be either young or old. Now, before you is a picture of a plateau showing you some of these features that you can actually see to be able to identify a plateau. And we also have some other features on your screen. This will take us to the next subheading, which is the types of plateau. We have three major types of plateau. We have the tectonic plateau, the volcanic plateau, and of course, the dissected plateau. Now we're going to talk on each of these types. The first one on the list is the tectonic plateau. Now, when we talk about the tectonic plateau, what are we actually talking about? The tectonic plateau, they are formed by tectonic plates movement, which cause uplift and are normally of a considerable size and a fairly uniform altitude. An example of the tectonic plateau is the Deccan Plateau in India. We also have some other definitions of the tectonic plateau, as you can see on your screen. From there, we proceed to the pictures of the tectonic plateau. We can also have a clear view of what it looks like and how it is being formed. This will take us to the next of the types. Now, what is a lava plateau? So many of us, I guess it's our first time of hearing it, or do we have any that have gotten that before or we've heard it before? Okay, today we will know what the lava plateau, what it is all about. The lava plateau, there are areas where thick layers of lava laying around the edge, and they are formed by highly fluid basaltic lava during numerous successive eruptions through numerous vents without violent explosion. Now, an example of this lava plateau is the Blue Plateau in Borno State, Nigeria. Now, this will take us to the next, which is the volcanic plateau. Now, the volcanic plateau is a plateau produced by volcanic activity. We have two major types. We have the lava and the pyroclastic plateaus. An example of this volcanic plateau is the Atrin Plateau in Northern Ireland. Next, we are going to discuss about the dissected plateau. Now, when we say dissected plateau, what are we actually referring to? Now, these are plateau area that has been severely eroded such that the relief is sharp. Now, if you look at your screen, you'll find out that so many materials have been eroded from this area, making it to have such shape. You find out that the relief of this area is usually very sharp. This will take us to some of the major differences between a mountain and a plateau. Now, how many of you have seen a mountain? Okay. Do you think there's any difference between a mountain and a plateau? So many times, many people confuse themselves of a plateau to be a mountain, but in actual sense, they are different. One of the major differences between a mountain and a plateau is that we said mountains are elevated land surfaces. That is to say, the elevations appear from the Earth's surface. But a plateau, they usually have flat surface. Mountains are cone-shaped. Plateau, on the other hand, are table-shaped. Now, we say mountain, they have good elevation and are naturally formed. But the plateau, they can either be elevated or short. Mountains are very, very difficult to climb, but the plateau, they are not that difficult compared to the mountains. In a mountainous region, settlement is usually not advisable. That is to say, it does not encourage the settlement of people due to the cold weather condition of the place. But on the other hand, a plateau, because of the moderate weather condition, it usually encourage settlement. We also have other differences between mountains and plateau, as you can see from your screen. Any question? What are the importance of plateau? Do you think a plateau is of any importance to us? Now we're going to take them one after the other. Now, the first, we said, they are sources of minerals. When we talk about minerals, we're actually referring to natural minerals like your diamond, your gold, your tin, your copper. Now, most times these minerals are used in the production of jewelries, which women or ladies usually use for beautification purposes. The next is that they are sources of river. Now, most of these rivers that we have around us, they take their source from plateau. Looking at your screen, you will see that the water is actually flowing from the mountainous region, from the plateau down to the streams. Now, looking at it, you'll find out that when we say source, some of us, I know we say source of river, some of us are a bit confused. The source actually referring to the beginning of the river, where the river starts. Now, most of these rivers that we have around us, that we see around us, they actually take their source from the mountainous or plateau regions. Next, we discussed about plateau being able to support the growth of plants. Areas where we usually have plateau, they encourage agriculture. Now, the production of crops are made possible as a result of the weather condition of these areas. Now, since the weather condition is moderate and supports agriculture, there is every tendency for crops to thrive well in this region. Looking at your screen, you'll find crops like yam being cultivated in this region. We also have some leguminous crops being cultivated. From there, we proceed to another of the importance, which is they serve as centers of tourist attraction. Now, when we talk about centers for tourist attraction, these are places people go to for sightseeing. People want to see, they have heard so much about the place, they want to see for themselves. And as such, you see people, they travel down to this region just to see what these features, what they look like. And when people visit these places, they usually derive pleasure in it because they are not used to such environments. We'll talk about the disadvantages. Now, do you think a plateau have any disadvantage? Remember, whatever they have an advantage, usually have disadvantage. Now, let's talk about some of the disadvantages of a plateau. One of them is that they act as barriers to communication. Now, when we say barrier to communication, it's actually, we can actually say that it will prevent one from getting to the next person. Take an instance, we have someone living in the lowland region and we also have the other one at the highland region. Now, communication will be very, very difficult because we have the plateau acting as a barrier between these two persons. Next, we'll say that plateaus are usually associated with erosion. Now, when we talk about erosion, as we know, has to do with the washing away of the topsoils. Areas where we have plateau, because of the flow of water, they usually wash the soils by the side, thereby making cuts into these roads or sides of the land and leading to erosion. So you gather that areas where you have plateau, they usually have high erosional activities. From your screen, you can see how it cuts down the soils because of what? The force or the pressure with which the water flows down. From there, take the next, which is plateau are being prone to natural disasters. Now, when we talk about natural disasters, we're actually referring to those occurrences that happen naturally. Like, for instance, you have your volcanic eruption, you also have your earthquake. Now, these are natural disasters, and areas where we have plateau, they are usually prone to such region because eruption can take place at any given time. Looking at the picture on your screen, you see a man holding his head because of the natural disaster that has occurred to him, thereby destroying his building. Next, we'll talk about intervisibility problem. This is where we have plateau, they usually have intervisibility problem. Now, when we talk about intervisibility, we're talking about one person or the ability of someone to be able to see the next one, the ability of someone not to see the next one. Now, if you are in a region where you have plateau, there's every tendency that you will not see the next person close to you. Let's assume we have two persons standing on a horizontal plane. One is on point A and the other is on point B. Now, if these two persons are actually standing, you find out that they have a barrier. The plateau acts as a barrier, not being able to act as a barrier, preventing the one in point A not being able to see the one in point B.
It has been a wonderful time with you in class today. Go through the remaining works I have on the portal, attempt your quizzes and do your assignments. Till we meet in our next class.